岁月、环境、规则 ，LPL 在不断改变。6年中，有许多人问我，你为什么还在坚持？这局游戏对你究竟意味着什么？
全军出击！
我见过最美的风景，也听过最热烈的欢呼。为了所有这些，我愿意付出一切。
何来联盟？
这局游戏是一段旅途，有人中途停留，也有人会做到最后，而终点只不过是另一个起点。
50的血量，50的血量！
我不懂那么多是非曲折，这局游戏赢就对了。
이번 게임의 낭만은 0부터 100처럼 무명에서부터 이름을 날리는 것이다.
我从来都没有后悔过自己走过的路。这局游戏的魅力就在于创造奇迹。
많은 사람들이 전설을 보는 것에 열광하지만 다른 사람들이 그 뒤에서 흘리는 땀에 대해서는 잘 보지 못합니다. 하지만 이러한 땀이 없었다면 저희는 다시 이곳으로 돌아오지 못했을 겁니다.
欢迎来到英雄联盟。
会变的是人和环境，不变的是游戏最后的胜利画面。
我明白，这场游戏就是成王败寇，
但是不到最后，我不会放弃对王冠的追逐。
这局游戏需要牺牲，无私奉献，去成就团队的胜利。
他还需要领袖，不管遇到什么困难，都和同伴一起扛下去。
是我最喜欢的玩具。
LPL 需要年轻的力量，是时候让我们来接管比赛了。
想成为这场游戏的主角吗？打败我吧！我们的时代还远没有结束。
Welcome back, everyone. It's week 3, day number 5, and we've only got 2 days left of this round of inter-conference play, and I have got to admit, I am so excited to see how the standings are going to shake up because we have had wild developments as some teams have come in and completely changed the standings, and everything else has gotten all wild and crazy all along the way. Of course, you can already see our first players for the day, Jingdong, loading in. They're in their venue. You can see they're getting nice and prepped and ready, drinking lots of water to make sure they're hyped for their matchup because they're taking on a former teammate across the other side, Doinby, who hopefully is getting just as prepared with the rest of his new team, the Rogue Warriors, still trying to make a name for themselves here. But welcome to the desk, everyone. My name is Dominic Dom Romer, but you can call me Dom. And this is Clement Chu, just Clement Chu.
Yeah, I have no handle specifically for that reason, so I don't go Dom.
we can call you just Clement. Like we did with Rusty yesterday. Is that a little bit more?
I prefer Clement. It's fine. It's
okay,
fine.
all right.
It's good.
It's Clement. Thank you so much. Let's actually take a look at where our standings are for today because we've got a lot coming at you. Today we're going to be taking a look at the East, but quickly before we get to that, let's recap what happened in the West just yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday we didn't have that broadcast, but Vici Gaming got their first win in the LPL 2018 Spring Split. Not enough to overcome EDG, though, as EDG secure their slot in the top echelons of the West.
And, of course, BLG also victorious over up-and-comers FPX as well. But now today we turn our attention towards the other side of the bracket, the East side, the Beast side.
A 6th place match between SNG and RNG. Not people you want to see at the bottom of the standings there.
And, of course, happening at the same time as that, we've got Snake versus OMG. That'll be happening in Chongqing. We'll be giving you updates onto that series because, unfortunately, there's only one of us and 2 streams. So hopefully we'll try to get you some info as that's going on. But that's for later. For now, we've got to turn our attention to the first matchup of the day. It is Rogue Warriors versus Jingdong Gaming. And this looks like it could get a little spicy.
Yeah, this is Doinby against his former teammates. Now, Jingdong, back in 2017, they weren't such a great team. They were actually a 5th place team in their own group. However, Doinby was without a doubt the best player on that squad. What's happened now is, without their best player, Jingdong is somehow doing even better.
Yeah, it was Doinby and the boys was what it used to be, though tragically they did not find the performance they were looking for. And since then, Doinby has departed, and in 2018, he's found himself a new home, a rogue home, the Rogue Warriors.
Exactly, and if we have to talk about the changes, we have to talk about the two mid laners. Yagao, who is filling in for Doinby. No one had very high expectations. He was a rookie coming in. But if you look at the graphs right now, the big thing I want everyone to focus on is the damage shares. Doinby used to be the highest damage share player out of the entire LPL, 37%. Now he's moving back into that supportive role, only down to 26, while the number one has gone over to Yagao. So Yagao filling out his shoes perfectly.
Exactly. Yagao, the newcomer to Jingdong. He's got to fill the massive shoes of Doinby in that roster. Crazy thing is, as you said yourself, Clement, Jingdong look like they're actually doing pretty good with their Doinby replacement.
And we can talk more about why, because Doinby is the kind of supportive mid lane player. He's trying to resurrect the Ardent Sensor meta. He's a mask retailer. He buys all of these Abyssal Masks just for defensive purposes, and he's happy to let a hyper carry like SMLZ take over the game. On the other hand, though, I think Yagao as a carry player, he's taking so much attention that he's actually enabling his teammates to get some of the best looks of their life. And we have to talk about Loken's KDA.
Absolutely.
He actually has 25.8 KDA. That's the highest KDA in the entire LPL.
Well, let's slow down. We can't just assume that because Yagao is on the team, he's starting to enable Loken to do this. Because you would imagine with the old Jingdong, when it was still Loken and Doinby, Doinby would have to sit back and take a supportive role towards Loken, but it's actually with another carry that Loken is enabled.
Yeah, this is kind of a weird dynamic where it does kind of come down to the player chemistry, but what we've seen so far is Loken does work better with another carry, not like a supportive person, because on Jingdong, the problem they had was people knew Doinby didn't do damage, and they would just all team up and take out Loken. But now, in the highlight reels, you can see Loken basically standing in the same place, getting all of his damage off, and nobody's disrupting him because all the eyes are on Yagao.
And of course, we're going to be looking towards that mid lane a whole bunch as well, but affecting that mid lane is also going to be the jungle. We cannot forget about this because Flawless on Lee Sin has been anything but, I hesitate to come up with the phrase, he's been a god on Lee Sin. He's the kind of guy who inspires people to buy the champion, go home and play it, and then feed in my solo queue. So keep watching that, kid.
These are the two best Lee Sin players we have in the LPL going head-to-head. But we have to talk about their contrasting styles.
Yeah.
Now, Flawless is the guy that will invade on his own. He has the highest GD at 10 and has taken the second most enemy blue and red buffs added together, so he's more of a solo carry type. However, Clid, on the other hand, he sacrifices more of his own caps and has a much higher first blood participation rate. He likes to set up his teammates and play through his lanes. Now, the different styles are going to clash, and whoever comes out, I feel like, is going to be the most determining factor in this series.
And that's why I think we get to see a little bit more success from this new Jingdong roster, because the natural talent, the natural carry of Yagao actually thrives with this early pressure from Clid. And you've got to imagine, there is no chance Clid ignores the mid lane when his old teammate who used to sit beside him is now on the other side of the rift. He's got to head there at some point.
He definitely will, and I feel like the way that Jingdong plays has to be mentioned over and over again. They're a team that loves to set up kill combos in the mid lane. The Malzahar Lee Sin, the Galil Jarvan, even the Zoe Kha'Zix. All of this is to set up Yagao in the early game so they can find kills and really bring the map open. They don't really push towers that fast, but they like to play around the mid and jungle synergy. And the way you shut Jingdong as a team down, and we've seen this being done by Rookie and Ning, is you shut them down through the mid and jungle.
We'll have to keep an eye on that matchup. Of course, on the top lane, we've got Zoom and Mouse also showing up here. Mouse, previously of EDG, now seeing a little bit more success with the Rogue Warriors. But Zoom came in and he actually started turning some heads as well.
Yeah, this is a very interesting matchup because I feel Mouse is very set in picking a lot of the game plank. He really likes that champion, does a lot of damage with it. But on the other hand, I feel like Jingdong is the best team to punish that. We've seen the Ornn and Lee Sin combo just punish Gangplank over and over. And you have to remember, Zoom still has that Fiora pick in his pocket.
Absolutely, the ability to just aggress and try to go for the classic outplay setup here. Again, Jingdong versus Rogue Warriors. Clement, I got to ask it to you straight. what are we looking for in this matchup? What should I be keeping my eyes on? Because obviously there's the big story matchup of Doinby versus Yagao. Is that just going to be it? Is that going to be what I'm looking for?
I feel like this is going to be the main narrative for this series. Doinby has to prove that his type of playstyle is successful with the team players he chose. And if he doesn't succeed in overcoming his former team, I feel like the discussion then becomes, is Yagao just the better player?
Ooh, that's a bold conversation considering how long Doinby has been in the LPL and how often it seems he has now changed hands. Is this the final team that he ends up on? Or will Yagao actually prove himself here? Let's go ahead and take a look at the lineups. First up, it's Jingdong on the blue side. You've got Zoom in the top lane, Clid in the jungle, Yagao in the mid lane with Loken and Mao bringing up the bottom.
Loken so far has only died 4 times. Are they going to ruin his KDA? Let's find out.
Oh man, I cannot imagine getting a KDA like that after how many series? 5? Going on 6 at this point?
3 weeks in the LPL, still has 25.8 KDA.
Yeah, we often talk about it being one of the most aggressive and bloodthirsty leagues. Well, sitting across from him is the cold-faced killer SMLZ, along with the rest of his team, Mouse, Flawless, Doinby, and Killua.
And the big question is, do you let his Lee Sin come out? So these two jungler players, Flawless, 5-0 on Lee Sin, Clid, 4-0 on Kha'Zix. If that matchup happens, someone is going to have to walk away as a loser.
Ooh, that's going to be laying down the cards on the table. The classic, I am better than you. I can beat you if I really need to. Of course, we'll be getting into pick and ban in just a moment, but the coaches for these two teams have also got to be pretty hype as well, because Jingdong, if I remember correctly, they're still running the same coaching staff.
Exactly. Both of these coaches we're pretty familiar with. They're both from Garena, UDJ, who's been with the team for a long time, and with and against Stake, who's kind of comfortable with this mid jungle synergy. So it's really interesting then how each handles, especially UDJ. He's been so familiar with Doinby. I feel like he can sort of throw some wrenches in his game plan.
Yeah, he's seen how he's played. He's gotten himself set up. Well, speaking of Doinby, we actually got a chance to hear about his opinion on Jingdong's changes in style. Let's take a look.
之前京东的话，前面比较发育，然后重骑后骑保护我们双系嘛。但是现在他们改变了风格，现在是前面一直搞事，然后带节奏，所以我们要小心这个点。然后我觉得就京东的教练比较了解我嘛，然后我觉得他会针对我，我要小心。
There you go. Doinby reckons that he's going to be focused out going into this first matchup against his former team. Hello, everyone. I'm Matthew Fisher. Joining me is Indiana Frosker in black. And Frosker, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. Unfortunately, I think both of our voices are a little bit gone, so hopefully we'll try to bring the hype that we know that this matchup is going to be, but I'm a little bit under the weather.
Because it is going to be a very exciting matchup. And starting with that man that we just saw on the screen, Doinby, up against his former team, up against now the man who has the highest damage in the mid lane, damage share I should say in the mid lane in the LPL.
I have some very peculiar opinions about that, however, because when Doinby was back on JD Gaming last split, he also held the record for highest damage percentage of the team. And not to take anything away from Loken's improvement or Yagao's incredible performance, but I kind of have a feeling that whoever is the mid laner for JD is automatically going to have a ridiculously high damage share because no one on that team really does any damage.
They have had a very good split so far, JD. Currently, I believe, with 4 wins under their belt, or 3 wins under their belt, looking for their 4th against the Rogue Warriors here today. Rogue Warriors, on the other side, not doing as well so far in their conference.
Yeah, this is a 2nd versus 3rd place match, so we are getting a taste of kind of the upper echelon, as well as the fact that it is a great rivalry matchup between Doinby and his previous team. I mean, this is as hype as Swift versus Doinby or Icon versus Cool. So I'm going to put this right up again. We've got another great rivalry that's developed in the LPL between JD and Rogue Warriors.
On top of that, there's going to be some champion pools clashing between the two teams. Tedesca's already mentioned the fact that the jungle pool is going to be contested. They have those 2 superstar champions that if they get onto the other team's hands, they could spell a victory for them. But in the mid lane as well, Doinby going back to more of a defensive playstyle, whereas we have Yagao, the superstar in the mid lane, picking up quite a few hyper carries here and there.
Yeah, but even in the mid lane, you do have that shared champion pool, specifically in the champion Galio. Now, Doinby hasn't had the chance to get his hands on it, but it is the 2nd most banned champion against Doinby, and Yagao has just been going off on Galio. Makes sense. Doinby likes those tanky initiation, secondary support type of builds, so I do expect it to kind of crop out during this series.
And there's a possibility for it to be picked up in this first match because there is no Galio ban right off the bat. Jindong going to take away Kog'Maw, Lee Sin, as well as Jarvan. 2 bans thrown Flawless's way, whereas Zoe, Ornn, and Azir are taken away by Rogue Warriors.
Yeah, and finally someone learns not to give Flawless Lee Sin. He is currently undefeated on the champion with 5 games played. Clid also has 5 games on the Lee Sin, but sits around a 70% win rate with the champion. So I like the fact that JD say, we're comfortable expanding. We're not just a Lee Sin one trick. We're just going to ban it and take our chances with something else.
We'll have to see if they do pick up the Kha'Zix here, though, Rogue Warriors. That was touched on the desk as one of Clid's signature champions at the moment. 4-1 is Jindong at the moment, and he's picked up multiple victories on it. However, Sejuani was left open, and Rogue Warriors pick it up as their jungle pick of choice heading into the first match.
And the thing is this is Flawless's first Sejuani pickup. He's played exclusively Lee Sin, the Jarvans, the Kha'Zix, the Nidalees, these very aggressive, in-your-face, dueling type of junglers, but now he's the guy who's picking up kind of the secondary support status. Now, Sejuani still can be a powerful dueling champion. A little confused over there. Fish just had his heart skipped a beat.
What? I saw Lux locked in and went over to Rogue Warriors' side to pick the next champion and suddenly swapped out to Rengar. So that was a little bit confusing. Sorry to cut you off halfway through there, Frostgirl.
It's all good.
But we also have both AD carries being picked up very early by these 2 teams. Jindong going for the Varus pickup as well as Ezreal for Rogue Warriors. We also have Ryze being picked up. Now the Rengar on top of that Gangplank.
Yeah, so even though the Flawless was denied the Lee Sin pick, we still have a comfort pick for Mouse and his Gangplank. That is his most played champion. Mouse is actually statistically weaker than Zoom in pretty much every metric except for damage percentage done, and that makes sense because Zoom is normally playing the Ornn, which is why it was banned out against him by Rogue Warriors, and Mouse pretty much exclusively plays Gangplank, so of course he does massive amounts of damage.
And we have more bans being thrown towards Zoom's way. We have Na being taken off the table by Rogue Warriors. Braum is the ban of choice for Jindong, trying to ban out some of Killua's champions in the bottom lane to pair with this Ezreal. Camille hits the bench as well. So not too many carries for Zoom to pick up into this Gangplank anymore.
Yeah. The only other champion that he really has available is either the Maokai or the Alawi. We'll see where he decides to go. He hasn't been known as picking up kind of dueling-oriented champions. Normally with GP, he kind of sacrifices the lane anyway, just gets picked up and picks up the free farm. But Zoom's go-to has always been the Ornn, so we are going to have to see a different side of him this series.
And Karma's the final ban that comes out from Jindong Gaming, denying that pick from Doinby.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Do not think that is the support Karma. That is definitely the mid lane Karma. Galio's still available, however, and I have a feeling that Doinby will take it.
Could be the last pick. However, Rogue Warriors pick up Tahm Kench as their support of choice in the bottom lane. We've seen quite a few Ezreal Tahm Kenches in the league so far.
Sorry about that, Fish. Suddenly choked on air. So far in Rogue Warriors composition, we actually have a lot of losing lanes, to be honest. Unless Ezreal and Kench get a high priority on the wave, they're just going to get shoved under, especially because of the pushing power from Varus. And then GP, depending on what his matchup is, normally he just kind of farms it out. So depending on what Zoom takes, Rogue Warriors are actually looking at a map where Flawless doesn't have a lot of opportunity to play around pressure points and be that dueling jungler that Clement was talking about on the desk.
Okay, my eyes are not deceiving me this time around, right?
That was not changing.
That is a Yorick being picked up by Jindong Gaming, going to be in the top lane for Zoom, as Taric is their support of choice. Doimi's going to be picking up Orianna. Where the heck is Pulse? Once again, another game goes by where Pulse is a champion being played.
I definitely can hear him screaming off in the distance. We said that Zoom was going to have to play something else. He was definitely targeted out. A lot of his champions denied from him. Yorick, however, fits exactly in that type of playstyle that he likes to do, which is going to be that big, tanky, beefy front line. Now, the thing is that Yorick is much more about the side lane pressure, though, whereas JD are normally very used to have Zoom being in the thick of it. He's the guy who plays the Ornn. He starts the fights. He has the CC. He's helping them with their big 5v5 ability. With Yorick, it's a very different style of game that they're playing in terms of how they play the map.
This is such a unique pick coming out from Jindong Gaming in their first match in this best of 3 series against Rogue Warriors. Rogue Warriors playing stock standard. We see very similar picks. Flawless got denied his Lee Sin, but goes to a very meta-focused jungler of Sejuani. Like you mentioned, one of the few tank junglers we're actually going to be able to see him play, more of a carry player in that jungle position.
But we still see a lot of the same shell, as Clement likes to put it, from JD, which is that kill pressure from the mid jungle. They still have a Ryze and a Rengar. It's going to do a very similar thing as the Ryze Kha'Zix, Ryze Jarvan. You've got the lockdown CC, and then here comes the big burst damage, and then you have a priority pushing bot lane. So the Varus and the Taric, and even the Yorick. To me, this reads as a fast push composition that pivots around the mid lane. It's about getting Yagao comfortable in his matchup or having kill pressure on Doinby, unlocking him, and then moving around with that Varus Taric fast push strategy.
Top of that, they're up against the Ezreal and Tahm Kench in the bottom lane. I had a little chat with Rusty about this last night. And he reckons that we'll see Varus be able to push in easily against Ezreal, but not necessarily have that kill threat, especially with Tahm Kench.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with kill threat. They're not trying to kill it, they're just trying to take the lane as quickly as possible. And what's cool is once the map is opened up, once Varus and Taric drop that lane, then when they start teaming up with the Ryze, it's so easy to siege anywhere else on the map so safely, because if a flank starts getting set up by the Sejuani, Ryze is just going to ult backwards with the team.
Well, let's see if they can carry on with that threat. The fast pushing coming from the bottom lane, that Ryze in the mid lane, Jindong Gaming going up against Rogue Warriors. Game number 1 of this best of 3 series. Doinby against his former team. There's that team right there, Jindong. That's who he's up against now, playing for Rogue Warriors. We have a full house here today for Oscar. Everyone has set up shop in the arena to catch this matchup, and what a fantastic way to start. And with Yorick. What?
And we do have a massive arena here in our home base in Shanghai. We sit around 500 people, so when we do have a full house, that's why you can hear the crowd so prominently below us, despite the fact that we sit pretty much center stage, up top, looking over everything.
We get a chance to take a look at some of the Keystone Masteries, and already you're pointing out something.
Yeah, so the one that I really want to highlight is Flawless running press the attack on Sejuani. It's not entirely uncommon. I do prefer this one, but it's the fact that Flawless has not shoehorned Sejuani into his style, but we know him as the aggressive jungler. He likes to go in, he likes to steal buffs, he likes to contest, and when he has a press the attack Keystone, that helps Sejuani when she goes for her 3 proc, and then also gets the press the attack proc and allows her to be that dueling threat, even though you wouldn't really associate that with a tanky champion like Sejuani.
On the flip side, we're going to be taking a look at Clid, who did go for a red buff steal, spotted out by a couple of wards.
Yeah, so already Clid has pretty much Flawless on read. Clement talked about it on the desk. Flawless actually is #2 in the league for stealing buffs, both blue and red. He steals 14 of them. And so Clid is like, not today. I'm actually going to 3-buff you. So he's going red immediately to his red, which was also defensively warded. So they are going to be denying Flawless some experience and helping Rengar get kind of that springboard into the game.
So Flawless knows that his red buff has been taken away. Clid was spotted out by a couple of wards, but you can still see how defensive he is being. 2 blast cones taken by the Rengar, now straight over towards his red. Flawless is a full clear off the bottom side of his jungle, will be spotted out by Lu Mao here in the river.
Yeah, Gucci Mao even walking up the river to make sure that Flawless isn't going to peek his head into that jungle, and unfortunately he's just now kind of screwed and just has to take it.
We're going to be able to check in with the top lane here. Mouse going up against Zoom. Gangplank against Yorick. You can see the Keystone Masteries he's picked up for this match. Lots of ghouls already being sent Mouse's way, being an absolute nuisance.
And the thing is Yorick so long ago would have massive issues because he would have to rely on an early tier to get his itemization. Now, of course, Yorick has been through many changes, but I did want to point out the sorcery tree. If you haven't seen Yorick in a while, the sorcery tree really just allows him to be just as obnoxious as he once was because he just gets to sit in that lane.
There's going to be a gank in the mid lane here though. Yagao going to get locked down, flashes away, Flawless follows through, heal being used by Ryze. They're still trying to chase him down, but just not enough damage to lock down Toothpaste.
Oh, hello.
Has cleared, going to flash over the wall, jump inside the bush, tries to collapse onto Flawless, but he gets out alive.
And you get to see exactly what Clid wanted to do. Unfortunately, it was just a missed execution. He wanted to flash initially into the brush and then look for the leap simultaneously. Mistimed his flash, landed outside the brush, had to take that extra step back into it to get the leap, and Sejuani was able to clear range.
So just summoner spells being exchanged in the mid lane. Doinby will keep both of his. However, Yaka was forced to use both his heal as well as his flash to get out of that gank.
But Clid is already on the hunt. The fact that they burned the flash from the Sejuani and he is half health means that Clid has all of the power and priority in the world to punish Flawless. There's no way he was ever going to be able to farm his Krugs, and so frankly that was Flawless just being very greedy. He should have just immediately made his back and walked to the other end of his jungle for his camps to respawn.
He doesn't get the full camp pickup, but does take away a few from Flawless.
But that's, you know, losing Krugs as well as Red, and you're starting to see, I mean, they're still level 4, but you will start to see that EXP difference between the junglers, especially because catch-up EXP was nerfed so long ago.
It certainly was. Clid is on that aggressive jungler, where Flawless defaulting back to a tank for this matchup. In the bottom lane, though, we have Loken and Luma up against SMLZ and Kahlua. So far, nothing much has happened in this lane, but Loken, he's been trying to step up a little bit for Jindong Gaming.
And again, nothing against Loken. He's definitely come through his development, but he's never been the main character. And yes, he has been performing better when he's got Yagao, but is that Loken performing better, or is that JD performing better because they got an upgrade in their mid lane? And I tend to sit on the side that Yagao is just a better suit for Clid, and that Loken just by proxy benefits because JD are winning more games.
It is a very passive bottom lane meta at the moment. You can see lots of unsealed spellbooks being picked up by different bottom laners. Ezreal's kind of shoehorned into the Kleptomancy he picked up, which Rogue Warriors, they have 2 Kleptomancy Keystone runes coming out in this match. One on Gangplank, one on the Ezreal.
Yeah, of course, reminder, we are still on 8.1, so the Klepto nerfs haven't come through yet. So they're still getting the full sustain. As hold on, we do have a roam for a dive top lane. No level 6.
We see this all the time onto Gangplanks in the top lane. Mouse going to be trapped underneath his turret. Zoom's going to go in first, takes the turret, locks him inside the cage. Mouse will flash away. Now Yakao sent a dish out damage. Zoom still holding on to turret. Now we'll drop it. Clint in trouble though. He's not going to be able to get out of that one alive. They trade 1 for 1.
Now here's the thing. I want everyone to go ahead and look at the inventories right now and tell me what is about to come up. It's the stopwatch. Why not just wait 15 more seconds for the stopwatch to become available at 6 minutes and then look for that dive there? They were trying to make use of the fact that Doinby had used the early teleport to try to reset the lane pressure. That was caused by the initial gank, and knowing that a TP wouldn't be able to follow, so they would have numbers advantage to the top side of the map, but just be a little bit more patient.
Mouse's stopwatch just came back up and online as well, so potentially trying to stop him from using that during that dive. However, they trade 1 for 1. Gives Zoom a nice CS advantage in the top lane, though. 20 CS up over the Gangplank.
And he is going to have a pretty hefty buy. We can already see that he's got the Ninja Tabby as well as the Health Crystal. And basically what Zoom's saying is, you're not going to do any damage to me. I'm never going to lose any health. I'm also bringing the Control Ward and refillable, so I'm never leaving this lane. It is a fast push, priority pressure composition.
On top of that, that top lane outer turret is already incredibly low thanks to the ultimate thrown down by Yorick after they're able to knock Mouse back to the fountain. He's going to head back up there, pick up the bits and pieces of farm remaining, continue with this push. We'll have to check in and see how he does later on the match. But Yorick's just a champion we don't see, Frosco, and we haven't really seen him in a competitive play. Maybe picked up here and there as a niche pick, but never has he really been backing the competitive meta since his rework.
I believe we only saw him, a handful of times back in the previous split, but the same mentality exists. Just hold on a second, because we do have a contest.
Clearly looking to try and stop Rogue Warriors from picking up their red buff. He takes a lot of damage running into a Gangplank as well as Sejuani. He is just going to fall for that. Kahlua even picking up the kill.
So he felt confident because Gao was right behind him, does have the ultimate available. Feels nice because Ryze is, sitting pretty tanky with his itemization currently. But just kind of walked face first into Fog of War and died for no reason. Just classic Clid things.
Yep, just running into Flawless's jungle.
But that's now 2 plays where, even though we are very excited for JD, and even though they do sit very high up on the standings currently, you can start to see why they're still such a green team. It's that, maybe over-aggression, not quite thinking everything through or weighing all of the different variables before they attempt their plays. So I like how proactive they are. I just wish they would, pump the brakes just a little bit.
Hasn't costed them too much just yet, though. Rogue Warriors sit on about 500 gold of a lead.
It actually costs Clid a lot, not necessarily JD. And the lead, we talk about this all the time, the lead is actually so, like the gold at the top is so, what's the word I'm looking for? You can't judge it because of Klepto. Because Klepto gives you so much passive
inflated
gold.
Almost.
There we go, inflated, misleading.
So I have to keep track of that later on. Rogue Warriors setting up for an early game tempo advantage, you could say, trying to be a little bit ahead of Jindong. But it hasn't amounted to too much just yet. We'll have to see where they try to push their attack. Clid's trying to spot out Flawless here. Yaka will rotate down into the river, I should say, and clear out a couple of wards.
What Clid needs to do is he needs to start working more with Yagao. Fortunately, Doinby is still sitting on the teleport flash and doesn't have a cleanse available, so I expect that the next play should be to use the Rengar ultimate as well as the lockdown Rise snare and at least force a summoner spell out of Doinby. Top lane, you could walk up there with 2 members if you have control of the wave and then just try to brute force the tower, which looks like what JD are trying to do, but it's through the kill pressure and threat of Yagao and Clid as a 2-man unit, and they're just picking where they want to attack the map with it.
Rogue Warriors have this watered out, and they spot this coming a mile mile away. Flawless is already on the top side. Matt teleports
But
coming
did
in
they
though.
spot Tarek?
The top lane turret is incredibly low. However, Flawless will start the fight first. Zoom forced to flash away from the shockwave thrown out by Doimi, but it does delay top lane tower from being taken down.
Also, the fact that Mao was using his teleport up into the top lane has now been cancelled. You can see it onto the cooldown. And see, that's the thing. That play worked initially the first time because Doinby had used his teleport after the initial gank mid lane. This time around, he has it available. JD don't learn their lesson. They just think about themselves. We're going to gank the top lane. We're going to brute force the tower without accounting for the variables of the other team.
It's another Maiden being thrown down by Zoom to try and get more damage onto the top lane out of turret. That should fall in a few more pushes coming out from the Yorick, but Mouse is holding his own so far. Clid will head back into his jungle, continue clearing this one out. Flawless has been left alone for some time to farm his.
Now, we do need to kind of think long-term. You are correct that Yorick will eventually break this tower just through the sheer number of times that he's going to be running at it. But what does it mean for Yorick to be unlocked so early in a lane versus someone like Ornn? Because this is JD's very common strategy, except usually Zoom is playing, you know, a massive CC, hard engaged style of champion. Yorick isn't that champion. So by taking GP's tower and unlocking Yorick, he's not going to bring the same viability to a 5v5 or the rest of the map as his other champions would, and GP's just going to get a free long lane that if minions are pushed into him, he's going to be super happy farming that.
And he's still waiting just to pick up his first item, the Trinity Force, farming not only with the Kleptomancy, not only with his barrels, but on top of that, taking every single ghoul that Yorick throws his way. Getting that little bit of extra gold. You can see he's actually ahead of Zoom on the top side map, despite the fact that Zoom is 20 CS up.
Kleptomancy, baby.
Well,
isn't it a fun keystone?
Oh boy. Thank goodness that's going down the drain a little bit in the next patch. But we're still on 8.1 as we mentioned earlier. However, Yakar has to be careful in the mid lane. Doinby as well as Flawless trying to collapse onto this Rise. Still has flash available. Yakar playing this one very aggressive against Doinby. Not afraid to go toe-to-toe in the 2-on-1.
Hold on though, because Clid might get his chance.
Does not find the boulder strike. Or the second one.
Rein it in. Go back mid. There you go. So Yagao showcasing a little bit why we're so excited and why we're so hyped up for him by his sheer aggression there and his confidence that he would be able to dodge out the summoner spells. Because again, both these mid laners are running teleport, flash, and not taking the cleanse that you normally would against this much CC. But here we go. They've applied enough pressure to the top of the map by just trying to isolate this lane, and Zoom will push it down. But that question still persists. What does he actually do from here? Because pushing into second inner as Yorick versus GP is much harder. He needs to rely on the Rift Herald.
But he has been able to take that out of turret, giving Jindong Gaming the gold advantage for now. First turret falls, it goes to Zoom. It does sound like a very scary proposition to have a Yorick in the side lane with his ultimate, with Rift Herald.
But only if they secure the Rift Herald, which they do have vision control of that area. You can see there's 5 wards pretty much covering the top side of the map. Need to move that vision a little bit deeper though, so that will rely on Yagao having control of the mid lane.
There are big objectives to take on both sides of the map though. Infernal Dragon is the first elemental dragon to spawn in this match. We'll have to see if either team tries to prioritize towards that objective. Loken using his teleport to get down into the bottom lane. Kalua even using one to get down to return here quicker as well to stop these turrets from being taken down faster than they should. He's going to take a lot of damage from it. In fact, Jindong Gaming say, you know what? We can try and get a pick here. Kalua forced to use his stopwatch. Gets taken down below half health as well.
And that's the big thing. It's the fact that he's now below health, constantly trying to pot up. Hopefully it returns in time because Rengar is also coming down here, and it should force Doinby and Flawless to also respond, because if you see that the support is such low health, you can try to just force the tower. Now Mao is taking his back, but he does have teleport.
So he can return into that bottom lane. He's already picked up the Tear of the Goddess, now going for the Sightstone. We'll have to see if he does teleport back in, because Clid is waiting in the brush.
So is Mao. Here he comes.
Now teleporting right on top of Rogue Warriors as Clid pops the ultimate. He's gone on the hunt, looking to try and collapse onto them. Jumps onto SMLZ, gets some good damage, and has to retreat. However, stun does come out onto Kalua.
Pull back. There you go. Finally, Clid shows some experience there. He doesn't go all in, even though Rise was looking for the flank. He understands that I'm here just to chunk out health, and we're just going to take the tower. So not going too far, not putting himself in an extraneous position, and goes back to his jungle. But it should be the same play. And as I said, the Rift Herald is so important to Yorick. He can't push into GP's second tier tower by himself, and if he wants to actually be useful by being unlocked and getting all of those early game resources, he needs this as the next step to do it, because otherwise he's just giving free farm to Mouse.
He has been spotted out by the spooky ghost that was sent out by Doinby. However, it seems like Jindong Gaming are going to be able to secure this nice and easy. Zoom will pick up the Rift Herald buff and continues to head back towards the top side of the map. SLMLZ being fairly aggressive here against Loken in the bottom lane, but like once more, this has just been a lane that's been pushed back and forth between the two teams. It has been Jindong Gaming that have been able to outpush this Ezreal so far and get chip damage on the turret, but doesn't seem like a huge pressure point for Jindong at the moment.
I think this actually just speaks to the difference between SMLZ and Loken in terms of experience in the league and skill. The fact that Varus has just pretty much traded the lane entirely even with Ezreal.
As we check in, Rift Herald actually being used very early by Zoom. Still has his ultimate available. So that's going to push in.
Yeah, it's because he will draw more attention. You see the fact that Doinby is actually walking up behind, and now you've got two members having to take care of this top lane tower.
Mouse going to be careful.
He'll be okay. He should be okay. There's no reason for him to die there. But JD didn't quite time it right. They got Doinby out of position, they forced Mouse out of position, but the GP ultimate is still available so they can clear a wave anytime they want. And they didn't time it with this wave crashing into this tower, which Flawless is just going to pick up. So again, JD had the right idea about how they wanted to break the game open, continue to snowball their gold lead, but because they didn't time it correctly, it just is kind of for naught.
And welcome to the League of Unsealed Spellbook, where you get a teleport, you get a teleport, everyone just gets a teleport. And once more, Doinby's return to the mid lane, going to be able to defend from that push. So, all they really get with the Rift Herald is some chip damage to the top lane inner turret, which is good, but not great for Jindong Gaming, whereas Rogue Warriors, they move towards the Infernal Dragon. However, JDG want to fight for this. Dragon is low. Floors to the pit, taking so much damage. Killua forced to save him, and Taric takes the Infernal Dragon away. Jindong Gaming look for a fight. Shockwave is good, but invulnerability comes out from Taric as Loken picks up the first kill in the fight. In fact, it's going to be the Rise trying to deliver himself as the backlines. Looked like Yakal didn't really want to take that one, but still, Infernal Dragon and a pick for Jindong Gaming.
And it'll surely be another structure, as you can already see that Taric and Varus have returned to the bottom side. Killua is still dead for 12 more seconds, does have the TP, but there's no way for SMLZ to defend it by himself. So JD have a huge swing of power off of that play, possibly more.
Trying to get as much damage onto this mid lane outer turret as well as the bottom lane outer turret. Jindong Gaming will be able to take down the bottom lane objective, as the mid lane was successfully defended by a couple of members from Rogue Warriors.
And now it's just a matter of moving that 5-man mid. We take another look at this. Now the big issue is the fact that Flawless is forced to tank the Infernal for so long. Mao then hits a gorgeous stun, which denies any sort of contention for the Dragon, then turns and quickly snags it himself for the Infernal. At this point, JD just had the superior positioning on where they're flanking from the team fight, and then clean it up, grab a couple of summoners on the back end, and then grab massive chip damage on mid tower and the bottom tier tower.
Jindong Gaming are only 1,000 gold up in this matchup, though. Zoom has his Trinity Force available. Yakal's trying to pick up blue buff for himself.
They are actually so much farther ahead. Again, that gold is just so inflated by the Kleptomancy. It's the fact of where the gold is for Rogue Warriors, and if those, if those gold sources aren't being available in the team fights, and they really do mean nothing. So is Mouse actually rotating early to the fight, setting up his barrels, using these really nice GP ultimates to get massive damage across? If the answer is no, then that gold difference means nothing.
Very damage heavy build coming out from the Yorick as well. We see the Trinity Force as well as the Tiamat being picked up. We're going to have to keep track and see what he decides to upgrade that item into.
I mean, he's going to be relegated to the side lane. If he went for the tank, he doesn't have enough CC. Or I guess I should say dependable CC, like not a free hard lock to make any sort of big tanky build worthwhile. So this is the pretty standard Yorick build. I 100% agree with it, because he basically just has to continuously shove in Mouse and just be a giant pressure point. Did he get it? He got it!
Steals it away. Loken snipes away blue buff, and slowly Rogue Warriors lose every single objective that Jindong come to take. 2 turrets to 1 at the moment. Even in the mid lane, Doinby looking for a fight against Yakal, but Yakal gets the advantageous trade. This turret is fairly low, but 4 members strong. Rogue Warriors will defend the push again.
And Rogue Warriors are going to get desperate. So what they're going to start to do is they're just going to start throwing out Sejuani ultimates and trying to hit with these Orianna ults. But you can see that they're indecisive about what they're going to do, because JD are being smart and pressuring all lanes at once. Now moving Rise into the bottom side. Yorick is still just being a giant pain in the ass into the top side, and they've now moved their range duo into the mid lane. And it's so hard to engage pretty much on any of these champions. Rise can realm more backwards. You've got Taric and vulnerability, and Yorick takes forever to kill and track down.
It still has been a fairly slow-paced game since the early skirmishes we saw, thanks to Yorick in the top lane, who has been able to push in Mouse, but Mouse looks perfectly fine and comfortable farming on his own. Yes, the CS is staggeringly in Zoom's favor, but Mouse is fairly equal on gold at the moment.
Just gobbling up all that free farm, and again, that was the misused Rift Herald. Right idea from JD, just poor execution, but they, again, still have the right idea about how their composition wants to play out the map right now.
As we mentioned, Mouse farming every single ghoul that gets sent his way by the top laner from Yorick.
But you can see it right now. Rogue Warriors, the way that they're moving around, they are contesting for vision, but more importantly, they want this pick. Kahlua has been unlocked from the lane. He's basically looking for a Tahm Kench ultimate, for a Sejuani ultimate. They want someone to step out of line, and there it is.
They're now going to step out of line. A Shockwave is whiffed coming out from Doinby in the mid lane. Rogue Warriors try to collapse, but they don't get too much from it.
And massive ultimates used and waste there. That's Tahm Kench and Orianna ult. Like I said, it's very hard to engage on any of the 1-3-1 pieces from JDG. So now they just plant their feet, continue playing kind of this paper cut style, and they will eventually win with it.
Now the top side of the map, they are trying to collapse onto this Yorick. Teleport is coming in nice and early. Gangplank ultimate gets used as well. Zoom can't lock anyone down, but Flawless stops Yakao during his teleport. Here comes the Rengar on top of that. Doinby's trying to flash away, but Lumao is there. Forced to use his cleanse. Still more people from JDG are collapsing. Yakao goes forward, forces a stopwatch out of the Orianna. Full-blown teamfight breaks out as Rogue Warriors are the ones that are looking to try to retreat at Doinby. He's the first casualty from his former team. Rogue Warriors still trying to fight this one back, but they just can't quite find the attack against Jindong.
Terrible team fight call from Rogue Warriors right there, and they were the ones that instigated it. They chose to attempt a team fight without the Shockwave available. Now a Baron attempt.
They've already lost 2 members to start off this Baron. SMLZ is trying to poke away. JDG are still fairly healthy, taking some damage.
This is no flash on Flawless, so this is a one-way ticket if he goes in.
Let's see if he does. Flawless looking to try and see if he can get the steal going off. Jindong Gaming looking to burst him down, jumps in the pit, he gets it! Flawless steals Baron away from Jindong!
Terrible call from Rogue Warriors to look for the 5v5. Equally terrible call for JD to think that that was enough to attempt a Baron, and they are rightfully punished.
They lose the Baron buff. The gold is still very close between these two teams. Rogue Warriors now trying to defend the mid lane out of turret. A little bit too much to ask from SMLZ as well as Mouse, as the rest of the members do finally respawn. But now they have time to reset and use this Baron buff.
And ultimately, that's a huge thorn in the side. I mean, obviously, it's going to slow down the push. It's incredibly difficult to push into a Baron despite what the enemy composition is going to do. And this is now a 4-minute respite for Rogue Warriors to continue to swing this gold lead, to farm up, to get these key itemizations broken open, and suddenly this 5v5 composition, the GP, the Sejuani, the Orianna, is that much closer to their win condition, which will be just a massive wombo combo team fight.
And here was that again from Flawless. Just sneaks into the Baron pit. Early smite comes out from Cleared and Flawless takes it.
Why are there no wards behind the pit? You just fought there. Why was no one thinking to zone? Why did we think that it was okay to attempt a Baron when the enemy jungler is still alive, especially when it's Flawless? These are all questions the coach is backstage just like writing it down on the whiteboard, getting it ready, taking off the belt.
Oh no. Not looking good so far for Jindong Gaming here, as they still hold on to a gold lead. They've lost Baron, and Rogue Warriors have time to reset and wait for their team composition to come online. But we've just seen so many of these Baron steals in the LPL, and Flawless has been the master of most of them in this split.
You'd think Zombie Ward would really be the difference for the LPL, because our vision control has never been the greatest compared to the global leagues, but that by clearing wards, we'd automatically naturally get more vision. And yet, here we are.
Look, we don't run Zombie Ward, okay? That's the LCK.
We really don't.
We don't need that. We just want fights, and that's what these two teams have been trying to pick off. Well, Jindong has been avoiding them for some time with this Yorick pick. However, Rogue Warriors, as you mentioned, slowly this team composition is going to come online. Jindong's still trying to split apart the map. They currently have Yorick in the bottom lane. Gangplank can now clear out back lines with his barrel, so he's doing perfectly fine against him.
Yeah, and so, like you said, they're splitting apart the map, and that is the clever thing that JD are doing. They're basically moving from wave to wave underneath Rogue Warriors, so RW are never getting the opportunity to consolidate their big 5v5 comp, to consolidate their Barons, and actually make an offensive push with the steal. It is entirely a defensive Baron, and part of that is because of how well JD are actually controlling and manipulating their side lanes and bouncing between them so that they're always pushing something that that Rogue Warriors have to respond to, and then while they're responding to that first push, they're then pushing something else.
Big item pickups coming up from multiple members of Rogue Warriors, though. We have the 3-item spike for SMLZ, Blade of the Ruin King, Iceborne Gauntlet, as well as the Mirror Mana complete, as well as Doinby rushing his Void Staff in the mid lane. That kind of signals that he wants to fight as soon as he can.
Yeah, exactly. Has to do damage right this second. The thing is, if they do get their 5v5, if they do force this mid lane play and they find the Wombo combo, they could very well just pretty much crack this game entirely open because it would mean an inhib.
Well, they force a teleport coming out from Ryze
But
into
now
the
they need
mid
to
lane.
force the fight. Watch Flawless.
Let's see if he decides to go in. Meanwhile, they just chip away at this turret. SMLZ stepping up to get as much damage as he can with the Sheen procs.
Unfortunately, they didn't time it on the wave, so now they're waiting for the next wave to come in. The tower will fall. Will they just be patient, rotate towards the top side, or are they going to try to force this more?
Well, they lose the mid lane inner turret. Baron does expire for Rogue Warriors, though. So, Gold dead even once again. Rogue Warriors able to pull back what was a disaster of a team fight for them. And with that Baron steal, Flawless looking good, and the map resets once more.
Yeah, slowly trying to inch their way back into the game. Still haven't entirely evened up the gold, but like you said, the big item breakpoints have come through. Their composition truly is online if they do find that team fight. And now we're back to playing JD's game. They're back in the driver's seat. No more Baron buff for Rogue Warriors to push the tempo, and it's going to be back to the 1-3-1.
They're already setting up for that. Mouse has been pushing on top side of the map. They send Yorick back up. Zoom should be able to deal with this wave. That top lane outer turret is fairly low. Just not really easy for Mouse to take that one down. Zoom going for more of a tanky build now. Titanic Hydra has been picked up. Spectre's Cowl next.
Now the wild card factor, because you are correct that they're just kind of sitting down. Orianna at this point can safely stand across anything, wave clear. With the Iceborne Gauntlet completed on Ezreal, he also has decent wave clear despite his kit not naturally having it. And then GP, like you said, his barrel is now just insta-killing the backline. So Clid is actually the wild card factor here. If they want to play this 1-3-1, it's now up to the Ringar and who he's going to pair with so they can make the pick and then finally crack one side of the map and establish another strong side to play around.
We'll have to see how Jindong decide to set that one up, because right now, they're just moving Yorick around the map. He was in the top lane, now he's in the bottom lane. Still has that teleport available.
I think it has to do with the fact that Clid should probably be playing around the Ryze. Now, the other side of this is that it's actually pretty easy to kill GP at this point in the game, versus someone like Orianna who's running Cleanse, Flash, has the shield, the displacement ultimate, and the speed up. So he could team up with the Yorick, but normally we're seeing Clid kind of hover around Yagao.
Just splitting up the map. You can only see Ryze top side of the map. Yorick bottom lane. 80 carrying support in the mid lane from Jindong Gaming. They don't really want to fight Rogue Warriors just yet. Baron's going to come back up in a minute 20. Cloud Dragon spawns in a minute 10 as well.
But Rogue Warriors will have to eventually leave this little bunker that they've created and start creeping their vision forward again. They can't always rely on Flawless to get these Baron steals to keep them alive and afloat in these games.
Just waiting for that next big spike for them to try and pick a fight again. They were trying to force the issue against a couple of Jindong's side lanes, but that was before the fight that took place against the Baron buff.
Here we go. Here's a pick being formed right now. They're looking for the Tahm Kench ultimate to get key members like the Sejuani behind them and then lock down with the ultimate. But Clid reads this, so they're trying to set a trap.
He's already on the top side of the map. Rogue Warriors decide not to go in. They decide not to use the Tahm Kench to get behind Yaka on the top lane. Cleared out a couple of wards. And Clid is still just waiting in case anything happens.
Just poking and prodding at the defensive JD. Rogue Warriors are just trying to find the best area to bite and attack into.
And still very patient play. Just making sure they push up their vision line, making sure that Zoom is still pushing it against the Gangplank, which isn't looking too good for him at the moment. Mouse has been able to get some good damage onto this Yorick.
Yeah, Zoom can't do anything against GP, and now we're seeing the weakness of the Yorick. Like I said, unlike the Ornn, which is what Zoom has been predominantly playing in the LPL, this doesn't have the same team fight value, and that's where JD have been really strong. That's how they broke open this game. So yeah, it was technically a heavy push-based strategy about breaking early towers and rotating around, but usually they break the early towers so they can start 5v5ing that much earlier. But here's the pick.
They're trying to go for a pick onto Clid here, who runs away, but gets locked down by Flawless, and Vulnerability not going to come out in time. They flash after him, but they already get the kill. Now Liu Mao trying to find his way out of this
Good
pit.
flash.
Good flash over the wall, gets him back to safety as Zoom is going to be the next target for Rogue Warriors. Flawless trying to jump over the pit as well. Flash being burnt by the Yorick. Loken and Liu Mao trying to run away, but Liu Mao gets tagged by Doimi, and SMLZ picks up the kill.
Zoom is gone. There's no way he gets out of this.
No flash available available. It means Rogue Warriors successfully find the picks they were looking for, as well as the team fight. 3 kills going to Rogue Warriors.
And in response, JD are just trying to shove as many waves as possible. They'll probably shove one more wave here, possibly rotate up towards the top side on that, but it is very unsafe because Rogue Warriors are rushing for the Baron.
And they cut the minion wave underneath their feet as well. These are the only 4 minions that Jindong Gaming have to work with. Rogue Warriors just beeline towards that Baron pit. Clid is back up. He can try and make the save and can try and make the same play as Flawless, but this gets bursted down so quick.
He shouldn't get there in time unless JD can pull some of the damage away from the Baron.
They're not going to be able to. Shockwave is good as well, locking back Yakao, and Flawless gets his second Baron of the game. And Rogue Warriors now look like the team that's in control.
JD, take notes. That is how you do a Baron call. Not only was it called at the perfect time, also cutting the wave underneath mid lane, it was also hard focused down. As we take another look at that Clid pick. Like I said, Rogue Warriors, they have the 5v5. They were simply just looking for someone to step out of line. And Clid attempts to do that late game, stealing a blue buff by himself.
It was Mao who tried to get out of this one, bringing Zoom into the fight as well, but everyone from Rogue Warriors just kept on collapsing, making sure they got those final 2 picks.
And Zoom will also die from Mao's sins, trying to get out of there by using the gate, baby gate in the choke point. Unfortunately, that just means that now 3 members are dead for JD.
And now with Baron buff available, Rogue Warriors are the ones that are going to continue with their push. 2,000 gold in the lead. Especially with Yaka on the top side of the map. He has no teleport available to get to the bottom lane. He's forced to recall. And slowly these structures are going to fall. Mid lane inner was already taken down with the last Baron buff. And Rogue Warriors will look to push for the bottom lane inner.
But this is the only push that Rogue Warriors have on this iteration of Baron. Because Yagao did go top lane, they basically get to push here, possibly take everything if they get it, and then they'd have to reset the map, which is why they're looking for the dive.
And they're locking it out. Doinby takes down his replacement of Yakao in that fight, getting that early pick. They will use the Baron buff and they will keep pushing.
Exactly, and it's because they know they'd have to waste time resetting the map, so they want to go for the end on this final push.
This is a big minion wave. You can already see Clid trying to jump in. Vulnerability coming out from Tarek. Is it in time? No, it's not. SMLZ gets the snipe as Jindong Gaming try to go for the last-ditch attempt of a team fight. Loken trying to dish out as much damage as he can. Zoom even throwing down the ultimate. Almost takes down Mouse, who's just going to empower recall himself back to base. But Rogue Warriors, they're not done yet, Frosker, and they're still pushing for this.
They refuse to live. Look at mid, look at top. Rogue Warriors have planted their feet. The game ends here.
And they're trying to teleport back into this one. Flawless is low, but there's just no one available for Jindong to defend against this, as they will find the comeback and they pick up the first win in this series.
Huge capitalization by Rogue Warriors on JD's mistakes. JD tried to be the proactive team, but Rogue Warriors with that combined experience, the Chinese super team, the revenge team, just sit back, watch JD make the mistakes, and capitalize at the right moment.
And what a way for Doinby to pick up his 100th win in the LPL with a victory over his former team. Still has the rest of the series to play out, but they should be pretty happy with that one. Did take a flawless Baron steal to kickstart their comeback in that match. But it was a very macro-heavy game almost between these two teams. We didn't see the classy, not classy to say, but the brawly team fights that we're used to in the LPL.
And that's a part of JD actually being in the game. What's impressed me so much about JD Gaming is the fact that they don't just rely on these big, heavy brawls like some of our newer or greener teams coming into the LPL. They like to think, they like to play around their win conditions and their compositions, but you still see that inexperience there because they make the wrong choices just slightly out of time. And again, the combined experience, SMLZ, Doinby, Mouse, Flawless, they see these mistakes and they'll rip them open.
And they're able to do just that against Jindong Gaming, who picked up the Yorick. It looked all right, but as you mentioned again, it's still those mistakes. There's still the mistimings that came out from them and didn't quite have that punch that we thought it would have in the top lane.
I mean, a lot of people will put a magnifying glass over the Yorick. I think it fit with the team composition of what they were trying to do. Naturally, I can think of a couple different champions that would do it better, but the strategy I thought was very sound. It was simply the execution on that champion, the misuse of the Rift Herald, the fact that he wasn't going to add anything or of any value to a 5v5 and tried to join the 5v5 anyway.
Well, they're able to take some small advantages from that Yorick in the top side of the map. They try to go for that early Baron play, Frosker, and that kind of seemed like where everything turned around and started to go in favor of Rogue Warriors.
I mean, that's kind of the big swinging point, but there were a lot of little mistakes that JD made leading up to it. They could have expanded on their early lead much heavier than they did.
And with that, Rogue Warriors pick up game number 1. That's enough from us for now. Let's send it back to the desk to break it down.
Thank you so much. Matthew Fish Stewart and Indiana Frusker in black, everyone. Clement, why Yorick? As clean and simple as you can get. Why Yorick?
Okay, I'm not going to give you a straight-up answer, but I think the mentality was basically, you know, UDJ, he knows Steak. He knows the Flash Wolves. He's like, oh, your team's the Flash Wolves. That's MMD in the top lane. I know how to play against this. I'm going to play 1-3-1. So they picked up the Yorick for the split push type of composition. We don't see this champion that much. You know, he's kind of touted as a split pusher who can be with the team at the same time. But so much of his damage is tied with the with his arm, the mist of the maiden. So he actually has to just play like a split pusher. And I feel like if you look at the ban picks, the sequencing of the ban picks, what they were thinking about was, okay, so Flawless is on a tank jungler. It's going to be harder for him to punish and catch out our 1-3-1 composition. But I think one thing they forgot to take into consideration was Killua. Killua was playing Tahm Kench, who has a global, and I think that kind of screwed their plans up a little bit.
It seems like we still did see the traditional, I guess, second phase defensive support pickup for both of the teams, and Jingdong, aware of that, they did ban out Braum and Karma, which I kind of understand the Karma because it's against Doinby. He's had miracle plays on the champion on Jingdong of all teams, so perhaps a bit of respect there, but leaving that Tahm Kench open and allowing people to be gobbled up and carried to safety, though in some cases the gobbling did result...
Drake.
Yeah, the Infernal
we
Dragon
saw
comes
that
to
one.
mind.
So I feel like Jingdong, they had a really good strategy going in. However, there's a few key picks I felt like they should have taken away. Tahm Kench being the big one. Just you want to prevent globals when you're playing a 1-3-1 composition. And they had a very good early game. The problem really for me was that they're, like Frost said, the Herald play, if you look at that Herald play again, there was a couple things they could have timed better. First off, they could have timed it with Zoom's teleport, so they could have taken the Infernal Drake uncontested rather than, you know, kind of steal it out.
A little risky situation, yeah.
Exactly. And then finally, we could see Jingdong just kind of being a... They do this a lot, and I feel like Clid had a very bad game.
Yeah.
Their objective secures are not clean at all.
So I think it's important to talk about Jingdong's strategy because you alluded to it a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
It looked like they were trying to run the 1-3-1.
Yes,
but the way that they were doing that was with Clid being the guy who led the charge, trying to go in and look for any sort of openings and wards and visions so that his side lanes could split push around. And maybe it was a little bit of, I'm playing against my former teammate, I got to look good in front of Senpai, but then he ended up getting caught out a few too many times.
Yeah, and that's what really, I think you kind of want to run the composition, but also you have to be aware of what is in the meta. How he was caught out by Abyssal Voyage.
Yeah.
When he died his second time, Killua was able to walk up there, and in this meta where you have a lot of unsealed spellbook and teleports like that, when you're clearing out vision, you need to have the lanes pushed in very, very far to just make sure team members are not going to suddenly appear in your jungle. And this is where Clid kind of failed out in the second time. He lost control, lost some time, and also I don't think they're going to bring the Yorick pick back up again, just because when you see Gangplank hit that 3 items, he actually hit 3 items before the Yorick.
Yes.
And
there
he was
a
able
point
to
where
hold indefinitely.
He was the Yorick was 40 CS ahead, and then he still ended up being down in gold against the Gangplank because the classic Gangplank passive just nets him so much. But still, big props to Rogue Warriors. They saw that Jingdong was being aggressive. They were trying to make some crazy plays. They kept their cool, they kept their calm, and they played the game that they knew how to play, and it all started with this Baron steal.
Yeah, exactly. And the Baron Steal is incredibly important because it shuts down the 1-3-1 completely. You're no longer able to push lanes. We see like Jingdong, they just don't have the upper side of the Baron Pit covered. They don't have vision over there. In that team fight, Varus actually had his ultimate, so if they had proper vision, Varus could have ulted the Sejuani and kept her in place, and that play would not have been available. And once that play gone through, it bought Jingdong, Rogue Warriors 4 more minutes. They got another catch on Clid, which was completely preventable, and things just kind of went from there.
Look, you got to try to send a message, right? You're playing against Doinby. You're playing against this new team.
Oh,
but
yeah, we were screaming.
Yeah, well, it seems like that message was received and subsequently ignored. And as a result, that's going to lead us to our man of the match for the Rogue Warriors here. A very strong performance out of them. That's going to be going to Mouse. 2-1-5. 100% kill participation. And I see you're making a face, Clement.
I've just been surprised by Mouse. He's been able to hold himself so well in the top lane. We've seen this once again versus RNG, where he got 2 kills in the top lane as Gangplank. He really has been holding his own, even without much help. In that 3v1, a huge part of the game was because he was able to trade 1 kill back on Clid. And kind of just hold the lane from there. So it's kind of a funny man of the game because it's a passive. It's more of a passive award. Like you
I
held
sat
that
back
well.
and didn't die, and therefore I get the MVP. It wasn't the clutch shockwaves that pulled people in or anything else, but still a good performance from Mouse overall. Exciting to see him pull that together for himself. But now Rogue Warriors, they've got themselves another match to close this out. Jingdong, they're up 4-1, though they are a younger team, I suppose, in terms of overall experience. It looks like this, I guess, youth still could be tempered a bit against Rogue Warriors.
That's definitely true. They're making a lot of kind of green mistakes where they're not securing their objectives correctly. I will say in the ban picks, I kind of hope that they continue the trend of banning out Flawless, but they pick Kha'Zix for themselves. Yeah, rather than going for the Rengar, which I feel it's risky, and Clid might not be having the best day on it.
Well, hey, we'll have to see if he can recover in game number 2. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.